Welcome to another episode of Fascinating History, where we dive into the hidden tales of the past. In today's episode, we're unearthing a story as extraordinary as it sounds. A war sparked not by territorial disputes or royal succession, but by a señorita. Yes, you heard that right. This is the forgotten story of the Pastry War, or as some know it, the Guerra de los Pasteles, a peculiar conflict etched in the annals of history. Grab your popcorn because you're about to hear a tale of romance, revenge, and, yes, even pastries. Our story starts in the early 19th century, a time when Mexico was grappling with its newfound independence. The nation had recently broken free from Spanish colonial rule in 1821, but the transition to independence was anything but smooth. Political unrest brewed with rival factions vying for power, while foreign nations lurked, waiting to claim a stake in the chaos. And amidst this turbulent backdrop, a love story, or rather a love triangle, that fueled international tensions. Enter Lola Sanchez, a strikingly beautiful Mexican woman whose allure turned heads wherever she went. Lola was the daughter of a modest family living in Mexico City. Though not of noble blood or wealth, she possessed charm and wit, making her a known figure in social circles. It wasn't uncommon for officers, diplomats, and businessmen from France, Spain, and even the United States to congregate in the bustling capital. Lola had two notable suitors, Enrique, a dashing Mexican army officer, and Pierre, a French businessman who ran a pastry shop in the city. That's right, we're not talking about royal dukes or generals. This was an army officer and a humble baker. Pierre's pastries, by the way, were exquisite. His croissants melted in your mouth, and his tarts were said to be the pinnacle of French culinary excellence in Mexico City. He gained favor in elite circles, largely for his delectable contributions to parties and galas. But despite his proficiency in confectionery, he was hopelessly infatuated with Lola. His rival, Enrique, was equally head over heels in love, and the competition between the two men grew ever more fierce. Even by the standards of the day, things escalated wildly out of proportion. As you might expect, their rivalry soon turned ugly. In 1828, things took a tragic turn. In the dead of night, Enrique and his band of soldiers decided to vandalize Pierre's shop. They didn't just break a few windows, they smashed ovens, destroyed counters, and, most importantly, desecrated his prized creations, his pastries. Local witnesses claim they saw piles of éclairs, profiteroles, and tarts strewn across the streets. A sugary massacre, if you will. Pierre was distraught. His livelihood was in ruins, his reputation tarnished. Imagine waking up to find your life's work littering the streets because of a petty squabble over a woman. You might think that was the end of our story, some local drama with no larger repercussions. But oh no. Pierre, you see, had a direct line to the French monarchy. Isn't it ironic that a mere pâtissier knew influential aristocrats? It's believed this connection came through his uncle, a confidant to the French king himself, King Louis-Philippe I. Fueled by heartbreak and indignation, Pierre wrote a letter, airing his grievances to the French sovereign and claiming compensation not just for his property, but for a grave insult to honor. Keep in mind, we're no longer talking about a woman. The narrative shifted to national dignity, because France loved nothing more than clinging to any opportunity to assert its global power. Fast forward to 1838. After years of diplomatic back and forth, which amounted to Mexico refusing to pay reparations to French citizens for damages incurred, France had had enough. King Louis-Philippe sent a fleet of warships to Mexico. The stated reason? To seek justice for Pierre and other French nationals who had faced injustices during Mexico's chaotic years post-independence. Yes, an entire fleet of warships over pastries. Though amusing to modern ears, this was no laughing matter for Mexico. The French blockaded key ports, including Veracruz, cutting off vital supplies. The blockade alone could have sufficed to escalate tensions. But the French didn't stop there. They demanded an astronomical indemnity, 600,000 pesos, a colossal sum then, equating to millions of dollars today. Mexico balked at the demand. Words grew sharp, diplomatic lines severed, and before anyone knew it, fighting erupted. French troops besieged key areas along the coastal regions. Mexican forces, stretched thin and ill-equipped, were no match initially. Yet resistance persisted. By now you might be wondering, was it all really about pastries? While Pierre's grievances served as a convenient excuse, the truth bore more layers. France's monarch sought to assert his country's influence in Latin America, using this relatively minor diplomatic slight as a pretext. In Mexico, the war was seen as the height of absurdity, a clash stemming from deserts. Newspapers mocked the French invaders, caricaturing them as croissant-loving opportunists. While the idea of conflict stemming from a pastry shop incident sounds farcical, its toll proved deadly serious. Battles emerged. Soldiers perished. Ordinary citizens faced displacement. Enter General Santa Anna. Perhaps Mexico's most polarizing historical figure, Santa Anna emerged as a hero during the conflict. In one dramatic battle near Veracruz, he valiantly fought the French advance, earning acclaim in Mexico's folklore. But at what cost? A cannonball struck his leg, requiring its immediate amputation. Undeterred by this personal tragedy, he declared himself devoted to Mexico's defense, even hosting public ceremonies where he paraded his amputated limb as a trophy of patriotism. I kid you not, he even had the leg buried with full military honors. At this point, the war seemed to encapsulate the surreal nature of history itself. So how did it end? After months of hostilities, international mediators stepped in. Recognizing their overreach, the French agreed to withdraw their forces, with Mexico agreeing to pay a reduced amount as reparations. Thus concluded the Pastry War. For Pierre, it might have seemed bittersweet. Though compensated, his name faded from records, a footnote to a larger geopolitical drama. For Lola and Enrique, their story is equally elusive, lost to time's obscurities. The Pastry War offers timeless lessons. It underscores how personal disputes can spiral into full-blown crises, particularly in times of national fragility. In today's geopolitics, it's hard to imagine such whimsical causes for conflict. Yet, history's unpredictability reminds us that absurdity often coexists with gravity. Would cooler heads have prevailed if social media hashtags mocked bread-armored battleships? We'll never know. In retrospect, the Guerra de los Pasteles endures, not just as a peculiar episode of pastry versus pride, but as a testament to the unpredictable threads weaving the fabric of history. Wars fought for honor, influence, and possessions usually fill bookshelves. But wars sparked by a lovesick baker. Now, that's one for the ages. Thank you for joining me in this deliciously dramatic trip into the past. Until the next story, stay curious. Who knows what hidden history awaits? Now, pass me a croissant.